Okay. Go.
Good afternoon. My name is Porter Kalsem, and my advocacy speech is on term limits for the House and Senate. Currently, the United States Senate and House of Representatives do not have term limits for their members. House members are elected and reelected every 2 years, and Senate members are elected and reelected after staggered 6-year terms. The problem with this system is that representatives often become lifetime members, which leads to corruption. A candidate running for re-election is called an incumbent, and an incumbent has a severe advantage over new candidates because they have access to name recognition, the media, voter mailing lists, and the donor class. This puts new candidates who have potentially better ideas and are less susceptible to corruption at a severe disadvantage. There are 3 main problems with lifetime representatives. The first is lack of new ideas. The second is lifetime career politicians. And the third is corruption. First, new ideas. The first issue with lifetime senators and representatives is the lack of new ideas. When the same people are perpetually in power, they will continue to do the same things. The longer these people remain in office, the more entrenched they become in retaining the status quo, and there becomes a disincentive to enact bold legislation to counteract government overreach, and because this kind of action would severely limit their chance of perpetual re-election. Second, politics is not a career. The second issue with lifetime senators and representatives is career politicians. They make their position their career, and because of this, they're more concerned with what their top campaign contributors want than the people who they claim to represent. Finally, less corruption. Lifetime representatives are much more likely to become corrupt because they are secure in their position. Quote, "For the first time in history, the majority of America's elected officials in Washington are millionaires. At the same time, 50% of Americans cannot afford to spend $5,000 in an emergency." Ballotpedia.org. A prime example of this self-enrichment from lifetime representatives is former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, who famously acquired millions over her 35 years in Congress. This kind of behavior is unacceptable because the sole responsibility of a representative is to do the will of the people. This kind of career building and self-enrichment directly impairs their ability to be impartial and objective. Nearly every republic, including the early republics of Rome and Sparta, implemented term limits for their representatives to reduce corruption. American founding fathers who were well read in history, like Thomas Jefferson, advocated for term limits from the country's conception. For these reasons, I promote a legislation in which senators are limited to 2 terms and House members are limited to 3 terms. This will provide continuity while limiting corruption. Continuity is important because it allows government to transition smoothly without needlessly replacing every elected official at once. Term limits with continuity provide stability and lessen corruption.